going on YouTube? This is Just My Opinion, and today I will be reviewing Kendrick Lamar's new album, Damn. So Kendrick Lamar, K-Dot, top dog entertainment rapper who has been around for a while now, but gained a bunch of waves and buzz from his 2011 album, Section 80, caught the ears of Aftermath Records label founder Dr. Dre, in which Kendrick Lamar wound up eventually signing to Aftermath, and he released his debut mainstream album, Good Kid, M.A.A.D City, in 2012. It was highly critically acclaimed and also did very, very well as far as mainstream-wise for him. And ever since then, his buzz has just kept growing based off of the success of that album as well as features that he was on. In 2015, he released To Pimp A Butterfly, which was critically acclaimed across the board. An album all about his survival's guilt. It was a politically charged album, and it also delved into a lot of the issues as far as our system goes in society. And everybody was wondering, after that album, how was he going to be able to top To Pimp A Butterfly? So the album starts off with the track Blood, which is a very quick little intro to the album, but still a very important track in the track listing. Essentially, Kendrick Lamar in this song tells a story about him. He sees a blind woman who is struggling, so he goes over, asks if she needs help, if she's lost something, where she goes around and says, "Yes, you have lost something, your life." Bam! She shoots him, Kendrick's dead. So this flows directly into DNA, which is actually produced by M.A.A.D, Atlanta producer who has been blowing up over the past few years. On this song, Kendrick Lamar goes for some of his most commercially appealing sounds, as well throughout this entire album. This is one of his most commercial appealing albums that he has put out to date. But on this song, he's basically brag rapping, claiming himself as a Jesus type figure in hip hop, and basically talking about all the things that makes up his DNA, which include pain, joy, royalty, evil, troubles, and things that he has seen. But then when that beat switch up happens towards the end of the track, whoo! That beat switch up is disgusting. It's fucking fantastic, and he's just going off on the second half of the track. Then we get the song Ya, which is actually a switch up in production. It's a little bit more laid back and mellow as opposed to the previous track, DNA. He basically throughout this song talks about his conflicts with good and evil. He also addresses the Fox News clip that we actually heard multiple times on both the tracks previously, and he's talking about how his niece is excited to see him on TV, but it's all while watching this Fox News clip who's depicting Kendrick Lamar as this terrible figure for hip-hop and black people in general. Then we get the song Element, which is more of a moody trap rap, brag rap sounding track. The production almost kind of sounds something like Drake would hop on to me, but to me he was actually spitting in a way that kind of almost reminds me of Kanye West's flow. I actually also like the reference in this song at one point that he made to Juvenile's song Huh. This song again is another brag rap song, assuring his spot atop all of the rappers in today's game, but he's still doing it in his own way, very clever and witty. I like the Tupac line about Tupac going to Cuba. We then get the song Feel, which is a definite standout track of mine on the album, one of my favorites on the album. I think that the way that this song was put together was absolutely fantastic. Features very hazy production on it. The emotions and thoughts that Kendrick is going through are hazy and scattered as well throughout, which blends with the production beautifully. He basically has all these negative thoughts and emotions about himself running through his mind. It seems like he's definitely torturing himself inside throughout the entire track, and basically claiming that he's out here praying for others. Others are asking of them to pray for them, but nobody is praying for him. I thought that it was absolutely fantastic the way that he put it all together. Then from here we get the song Loyalty, which is again another very, very commercially appealing sounding song, which actually features Rihanna, the first of only a handful of features on the album. And the feature actually doesn't go over that bad to me. I actually don't really like Rihanna that much. She actually did not annoy me on this. She was actually rapping on this song, which I actually thought that she sounded very well, going back and forth with Kendrick on this. And this song is basically all about what loyalty means to you and what you are loyal to, whether it be, your romantic relationships, your family and friends, or material things. What are you loyal to? So the next song we get is Pride, which has more of a psychedelic sound and feel to it. Actually kind of almost reminds me of something, the way that he is rapping and singing on this. Kind of almost sounds like something that Andre 3000 would have put on like his Love Below album. The title of the song, Pride, it's actually one of the original 7 Deadly Sins. And Kendrick on this song is basically talking about his questioning of happiness versus flashiness. One of the main statements that he makes throughout this entire song is that the world will never be perfect due to people's pride, which I actually think is a pretty valid statement. We then get the song Humble, produced again by Mike Will Made It, which this is actually his most successful song to date. It did wind up peaking at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It debuted, not peaked, debuted at #2. And this song again is just another brag rap song with some clever wordplay in it. And he actually kind of sounds the opposite of humble on this track. He basically is making it sound like other rappers should be humble of him, which I actually thought was an interesting contrast considering the fact that Pride was the song before this. So we have Pride and then Humble. So then we get the song Lust, which is another one of these 7 Deadly Sins. This song has some very wavy but very sinister sounding production to it. And the chorus at first I didn't really care for at first. It grew on me a little bit. But basically it was what Kendrick was talking about that I kind of enjoyed. It was talking about the different lifestyles in which both men and women lust for. And he also talks about the problems with these lifestyles. And towards the end of the track, he actually goes in a little bit about the election that happened this year with Trump. He basically talked about how a lot of the protesters right now, they're protesting, but once everything kind of dies down, will they still be protesting or will they still go back to their norms? We then get the song Love, which is actually a very smooth pop ballad, one of the most poppy sounding songs I think Kendrick Lamar has ever put out. Features Zakari on it. Never heard of him, but I thought his feature went over really, really well. I loved his singing voice. Kind of reminded me almost like of a hybrid between Justin Bieber and Zayn. And I thought he did absolutely amazing on the chorus of the song. And this song is all about the unconditional love that Kendrick Lamar possesses for his partner. And compared to Lust, this is almost like the polar opposite. We then get the song Triple X, which starts out very aggressive, very trap heavy, and then it mellows out towards the second half of the track with a beat switch up that actually features U2 on it. Much like a lot of people, I didn't know what to expect of this feature, but I thought that it went over pretty well in the context of the song. First half of the song is all about how one of Kendrick Lamar's boys comes to him, tells him about how his son got killed, and how he should be praying for his son, praying for him. And Kendrick Lamar basically is going around telling his boy, hey, if I were you right now, if something like that were to happen to me, I'd be wanting to seek revenge after this person. I'd want to go after them, which basically almost shows that even though Kendrick Lamar has a good soul, he is still capable of evil. Then the beat switches up and it goes for this more mellow production. It also talks about how there really is no true American dream for black people. Then we get the song Fear, which may be my favorite track on the entire album. Has this very nice laid back jazzy type beat on it. And I thought the way that this song was put together was very, very amazing. Basically, he's asking God throughout the song, why does he have to suffer? And then he goes through, in the verses, he goes through the 3 stages of his life and the three different things he feared throughout the three different stages of his life. He talks about at the age of 7 in his first verse, at the age of 7 fearing his mother. Second verse, he talks about at the age of 17, his fear of death and all the different ways that he feels like he could die within his community. And then in his third verse, at the age of 27, he talks about his current fears, fears of being judged, fears of losing everything that he has worked hard for, fears of not being able to help change people's ways and opinions through his music. Then after this, we get the song God, which is actually a very airy, synth-heavy, trap-sounding song. Sounds almost very angelic. And it was very interesting to hear this song after Fear, because in this song, he's basically talking about how he feels like he is untouchable, and about how he doesn't fear anything, which in contrast to Fear, with the song title God, essentially if you believe in God, you're supposed to not fear anything. So putting this song after Fear was another very interesting contrast between the song before and song after. So then we get the final song of the album, Duckworth, which is a very, very interesting song, ties everything together in a very beautiful way. So in the beginning of the song, Kendrick Lamar talks about how God's a funny motherfucker, but you gotta trust him, you gotta love him. And then he basically goes on to tell this story of this guy Anthony, who was a gangbanger who essentially planned on robbing a KFC, but ultimately decided against it because of one of the coworkers that worked at KFC named Ducky, who actually knew that he was going to rob the KFC, but decided because of that he was going to give him free chicken, free biscuits every time that he would come in. Ultimately, Ducky got spared, and at the end of the story, Kendrick reveals that Anthony was actually Top Dog, which is the CEO of Top Dog Entertainment, and Ducky was Kendrick's father, and how if Top Dog did not spare Ducky's life, Kendrick may not have been born. So then here's when things get interesting. So then we hear the gunshot at the end of this statement by Kendrick Lamar, and the album actually reverses all the way back to the beginning, to the opening skit with the woman who killed Kendrick, which I kind of see almost as his life flashing by him in 10 seconds. And the way I interpreted this is that the woman in the beginning of the story was actually Lucy, the devil, who shoots Kendrick. Kendrick is kind of trying to depict that if you flirt with the devil long enough, that it'll come back to bite you. There are quite a bit of conspiracy theories about this album, but the two main theories that I've been hearing is about hearing the album in reverse as opposed to the regular way. That was one theory about the album, but then the main theory that everybody was talking about once the album came out is that there was going to be a second album out because this was released on Good Friday, and this was supposed to be him dying, but then he was going to put out his second album on Sunday, Easter Sunday, as kind of like his resurrection. I don't think that the theories were very far off. To me, the concept of the album is basically that we all sin, but if we decide to go and stick with the path of believing in God and trusting God, that everything will work out fine. And he basically sums up the theme of the album within the first 10 seconds and the last 10 seconds of the album. Is it wickedness or weakness? Are we going to live or die? You decide. He's basically letting us decide whether he lived or died in the album. Did he succumb to wickedness and wind up dying in the beginning? Or did he overcome his weakest moments and his weakest times of sin? And did he ultimately wind up living and being spared because he chose the right path of God? This in itself is a double album because you are deciding whether or not he's living or he's dying, so you could interpret the album two different ways. So in conclusion, this was another very dense and conceptual album by Kendrick Lamar, but it was definitely masked over by being his most commercially sounding and appealing album to date. And the differences I would say between this and To Pimp a Butterfly would be that with To Pimp a Butterfly, that album was all about changing society and the way that society thinks. But with this album, I felt like he was going more so for a self-change type album and changing the ways that we think about ourselves and the way that we live our own lives. But with all that being said, I do have kind of similar gripes between that and To Pimp a Butterfly, where there were certain moments on both of those albums where, although I do really enjoy everything that he was saying throughout the entire album and with the previous album as well, just some of the sounds and some of the songs just did not sound as appealing to me as I would have liked, and I just couldn't get into some of the songs as much as I did with Good Kid, Mad City. But if there's one thing that I think that he has definitely proved with this album, it is that he is definitely the best lyrical and technical rapper in the game today. He is definitely the most thought-provoking rapper in the game today, and he is the 100% most creative rapper in the game today. This has definitely cemented his legacy amongst being one of the greatest rappers of all time. So overall, I'm going to give this album a 7.5 out of 10. Remember, this is just my opinion, and thank you for watching YouTube.